Hello, welcome back to another episode of the history of makeup. Today we are looking at the history of mascara. Where did that originate? Where did it come from? How was it first made? And where are we now? The use of mascara dates back to over 4,000 years ago. 4,000 years ago. It is crazy to me how we as a society, as a civilization, were so clever back then. With the limited amount of materials that were available back then, how did we know how to make the first form of mascara? Intelligence, honey. But mascara hasn't always been the product that we know it as today. Before mascara, it was actually kohl. And this was made using natural oils, fats from animals, along with charcoal or soot, mixed with honey and water. The honey was supposedly added to make sure that it doesn't run, and it wasn't that watery texture, obviously leading to running. And that is just a genius thought to me. How 4,000 years ago were you thinking about that? Incredible. The first stages of making a mascara over 4,000 years ago would have been to take a material such as galena, I believe it's called, that is a crushed mineral. They also may have used materials such as malachite, which I believe is like iron oxide. Is it iron oxide? No, it's not iron oxide. It is a vibrant deep green copper carbonate mineral known for its distinctive banded patterns, used as a gemstone, pigment and decorative stone, prized for its rich colour but valued more for carving than faceting due to its softness. It's a secondary mineral formed from copper alteration, often in limestone deposits, forming in masses, crusts or botryoidal shapes. Varies from dull to earthy in massive forms to silk in fibrous varieties or even vitreous in rare crystals. The uses and significance of this: for jewellery and decor, it were popular for beads and sculptures due to its unique banding. Pigment wise, it were historically ground from a green pigment for paints. And some interesting facts about it is its name may come from the Greek for mallow, referencing the plant's green leaves or soft marshmallow. Large, well-formed crystals are rare. It typically forms in rounded or fibrous masses. That is really interesting again, like that is something that's naturally grown, I guess. Also interesting, like the way things grow from the earth and what can grow from the earth is just mind-blowing to me. The world is really such an interesting and beautiful and just crazy place to be. So once the 4,000 year ago version of mascara was made, it would be applied with ivory, bone or wooden sticks to darken the lashes and accentuate the eyes. How game changing. Imagine being back 4,000 years ago and seeing about the first person to wear mascara. I bet that looked absolutely beautiful. I am a massive lover of mascara by itself anyway. I feel like it just opens your eyes up, it makes you look like a little bit more awake. So to have that experience over 4,000 years ago, I think it'd feel so futuristic. Insane. And it was interesting as well because mascara wasn't just made 4,000 years ago for appearance purposes. It was actually thought that mascara back in the days used to deter flies, the glare from the sun, and also ward off evil spirits. How true this is, we will never know unless we time travel back to over 4,000 years ago. But I think it's a really interesting belief that they had. Because you see it quite often, don't you, having these like circles of protection, these lines of protection. So I guess they felt the same in terms of seeing evil where it came to mascara. If you have that protective layer of mascara around your eyes, that is supposedly warding off bad spirits. It makes sense, but how true it was, I don't know. The first commercially available mascara, and most importantly non-toxic, was developed in the 19th century by who we now know to be Rimmel London. But we'll get into that later. Let's look at the earliest process of how mascara was made, because it's Absolutely fascinating, and as advanced as we are in 2025, it honestly has me baffled. So step one would be to get your dry ingredients. This would be things like galena, malachite, mixed with something like charcoal or soot for obviously that black colour. Next, you'd mix with a little water and honey. Obviously we've been through the honey and why they do that, to stop it running, to stop it being as runny in consistency. Disgustingly though, some mixtures are said to have actually contained crocodile fecal matter. And thank the Lord the times have changed, because I would not be putting crocodile feces anywhere near my eyeballs. Okay? Thank you. Thank you. And then step two entailed mixing the dry ingredients with the wet. So that would obviously be the water, honey, crocodile shit concoction. And you know what? I complained about the crocodile waste, but to be honest, these days there probably is a lot more diabolical ingredients added to our products anyway. Obviously not as dangerous or, you know, disgusting, I'd like to think, but I'm sure we'll find out about the contents of what we use these days further into our makeup series, because we're not going to leave anything out. These couple of videos that I have done on lipstick and mascara now are just introductions into the topic and the products. We are going to do a bigger deep dive. It really fascinates me how resourceful just civilization was back in those days. How, first of all, are you thinking that you need something like mascara? Second, how do you know what materials to use? Obviously they're not the safest, obviously they're not ideal, but for them to work, having no previous knowledge or experience about anything about mascara, because it was the first time it had ever been invented, it blows my mind. People were so switched on and clever, even 4,000 years ago. There is so much curiosity and intelligence in this world, and I love it. And they actually ground the things like malachite and galena with a pestle and mortar. I am very intrigued to know what they looked like back then, because I am a big fan of a pestle and mortar. How different do you think the world would be now if mascara never was invented, if it never got created, if we never knew about makeup? How different do you think the world would be? In all honesty, I think it'd be boring. I think makeup is really just so much more than products and things you're putting on your face. It's, for a lot of people, it's their identity. You can change your makeup depending on how you feel, where you're going, the season, the weather. So many different factors play a big role in how people do the makeup. And without it, I feel the world would be such a boring, uniform place. And if you don't know, I'm not about that, okay? Now you know. So let's have a look at mascara throughout the years. Starting of course in ancient Egypt, where both men and women used to wear it because they believed it deterred flies, stopped the glare from the sun, and of course warded off evil spirits. Apparently they also may have had antimicrobial properties to prevent eye infections, which to me just seems like, how does that make sense? If you've got crocodile shite in a product and it's going near your eyes, surely that is dangerous, is it not? But apparently they had antimicrobial properties in to prevent infections, so I must be wrong. I must not know anything about the waste of crocodiles. Moving on to the Victorian era, home concoctions during the 1800s. Before commercial versions existed, Victorian women created homemade mascara recipes in their private parlours. They typically heated ash or lamp black, which is soot from oil lamps, and mixed it with elderberry juice to create a dark liquid. That to me is much more appealing than putting crocodile shite near my eyeballs. This mixture was applied with a brush, though it was notoriously messy and prone to running down the face. So that confuses me a little bit, because in ancient Egypt they used to include honey in their mixture to prevent the running. So I don't know if they didn't get the memo, or they just didn't want to use honey if there was something around honey during that time. But it would have made more sense in them times to add honey, yeah? No? Me personally, if I just woke up in the, you know, Victorian era, I would definitely use honey because I don't want it to be running down my face. You might as well just not wear it. We're not trying to look bad. We're not trying to look like we're just had his heart's broken or his dog's died. We want to look good. Then the birth of modern commercial mascara. This was 1830s to 1917. Two inventors are credited with creating the first recognisable commercial mascaras. Eugene Rimmel is supposedly the first person to have founded a commercial mascara, one that is safe and non-toxic. This was in the 1800s, 1830s to be precise. He was a French perfumer for Queen Victoria. He developed the first non-toxic commercial mascara by mixing petroleum jelly with coal dust. The product was so influential that his name Rimmel remains the word for mascara in multiple languages, including French and Spanish. That is a fact I didn't know. That is really interesting. I like that. I should have done research sooner. And then the second man, which is the one I know more of a story of, is Thomas Lyle Williams. Between 1915 and 1917 in Chicago, he watched his sister Mabel use petroleum jelly and coal dust to apply to her lashes. This wasn't a product yet, one that had been made. It was just a mixture that someone had previously invented a use for. His sister Mabel used this mixture of petroleum jelly and coal dust because she had actually had an accident in the kitchen and ended up singeing her eyelashes. So she used this to darken them. Thomas Williams then used his chemistry set and began selling this product, which he originally named Lash-brow-ine by mail. This was, of course, after refining, perfecting the formula. He actually then changed it to Maybelline, which was a combination of both his sister's name Mabel and Vaseline, petroleum jelly. And this resulted in what we know as now Maybelline. So Rimmel and Maybelline are basically the two OGs of mascara. These early forms of mascara were actually called cake mascaras. So that was a hard block of black pigment and soap in a soap box tin. You would use a wet small brush, which was wet with water but usually saliva, which was then rubbed in the black pigment and then applied to the lashes. Now, obviously, makeup artists and things weren't a thing back then in the really early times, so using spit, saliva instead of water wouldn't have been an issue because you are applying it to yourself. That obviously could not continue when makeup artists came onto the scene. This led on to another formula which was actually waterproof and produced in 1938. It contained roughly 50% turpentine, which of course stunk and caused quite a few severe eye irritation issues, which we don't need, we don't want. You want to have one set of eyes, we need to look after them, we need to guard them with our lives. And I guess Helena Rubinstein thought that this was the perfect opportunity to release something innovative where it came to mascara. This was in 1957. She absolutely revolutionised the beauty industry by releasing Mascara-matic. This was a lotion-based cream in a tube with a grooved rod applicator. Revolutionary, honey, revolutionary. One of the main things that this did was obviously take away all that mess that came with the soap tin mascara. And I can't help but think that also with it being in a tube, it was longer lasting and it wouldn't have dried out as quickly as it would in the tin mascara. But saying that, the tin mascara was kind of like water activated, and with this new one being a lotion based cream in a tube, maybe that did dry out quicker. And then the whole mascara in a tube thing really kicked off in 1960, where Maybelline released the first tube-like mascara called Ultra Lash, which was the first mass-market mascara in existence. The first mass-market mascara to use the mascara in a tube concept system that still remains today. That is still as we know it today. So from the 1960s all the way to 2025, we have used mascara in a tube. But that also makes me question, do you think it's something that we will continue to develop? Do you see mascara being in other forms other than in a tube in the future? Me personally, I think out of all the variations that have been released so far, I believe the mascara in the tube is probably the best. I do still like the idea of the one that is water activated, but given the fact that makeup artists have grown and grown and grown, and we live in a world where there are so many makeup artists and people often prefer to get the makeup done by a makeup artist and do it themselves, it wouldn't be practical. I feel like having a water-based mascara too is not practical. We want something that's waterproof, so if they could make something like the water-activated mascara in a soap tin but make it waterproof, I would definitely want to try that. I think I forgot to say as well, but this 1960 version of mascara was called the Wand, like mascara wand. So I've done a little bit more research into just facts about mascara and what kind of things are used in the early days. Of course, we've already been through crocodile waste. This was used by ancient Egyptians when they mixed coal with honey, water and crocodile waste to create a paste that added volume and length to lashes. My thought on the crocodile waste is that they probably added that to give you that volume. As disgusting as that sounds, I think that's probably the main ingredient there that's going to do that. Another absolutely wild thing that they used were fish scales. Now, I don't even know how they even thought of that. But almost every modern mascara actually contains something called guanine, which is a crystalline substance that provides shine. And fish scales are very shiny, so I don't doubt that. It was traditionally, back in the days, sourced from ground up fish scales, but in more recent years, it was actually discovered in bird and bat fecal matter, leading to its name derived from guano. And I've actually found a scandal from 1933. 1933 scandal. Let's have a look. In 1933, a product called Lash-brow-ine was marketed as a permanent mascara. Jeez, we can't do a permanent mascara. Immediately, I don't like the sound of that. It contained a toxic aniline dye that caused severe allergic reactions. It blinded more than a dozen women and killed one. Blinded more than a dozen women and killed one. This tragedy was a primary driver for the US Congress to pass the 1938 Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, granting the FDA authority to regulate cosmetics. Thank goodness. Of course, it is tragic that someone lost a life to it and there were others affected by it. But from that has come guidelines and regulations, which is of course the most important thing when it comes to cosmetics. Cosmetic-wise, skincare, whatever it is, that is the most important step. Now we're just going to go through 4 little facts that I've found that I think are really interesting. Apparently, the average person who wears makeup will spend approximately $3,770 on mascara over their lifetime. That is crazy to me. I don't doubt it for a second, but it just seems really expensive. These days, mascara can be anywhere from £10 to £50, but I do feel like it takes a long time for you to use the whole thing. I know you're supposed to get rid of it after the expiration date, but I am guilty. Do not listen to me. Do not try this at home. It is bad for your eyes, and I know it is, but I don't look at expiration dates. So mascara can last me like, 6 months to a year, sometimes longer. So yeah, that's about right, $3,770 roughly. That sounds about right for a lifetime. Still crazy to see like the total amount of what you'd spend on mascara alone. No wonder it's a multi-million-pound industry, darling. So shelf life next. Mascara has the shortest lifespan of any cosmetic product. Because the wand is constantly exposed to air and then dipped back into the tube, which of course, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. Experts recommend replacing it every 3 months. Okay, well, don't tell the experts, but no. Me personally, where it comes to mascara, I feel like you've got to leave it about 3 months until it is the consistency that you prefer and, you know, the optimal consistency. So how can you, come on now, 3 months? 3 months isn't, no, I'm sorry. I have never bought mascara and thrown it away after 3 months. Never. Not once. Unless it's one that I really don't like, or it just doesn't work, or it, you know, I don't like the wand, something like that. No. 3 months is far too short for me. I disagree strongly with that one. But I am no expert on mascara, so if the experts are saying 3 months, then it is probably what I should be following, but no, I'm sorry. No. The most common injury is next. So scratched corneas from mascara wands are the most common makeup related injury reported to the FDA. That I can believe, because the amount of times I've stabbed myself in the cornea with my mascara wand is almost comical. I must do it like at least once a week, and it hurts, okay? It hurts. It's not just like, oh, I poked myself in the eye, give me a second. It's I think I need to go to hospital and have some kind of cornea transplant. I am in massive amounts of pain. And mites as cleaners. So tiny microscopic mites called Demodex naturally live on human eyelashes, where they serve as a cleaning crew by eating dead skin cells and debris that could otherwise cause infections. That is a fact that I have heard about before. I wish I hadn't have read that, because I just don't need to know that. I don't want to know that these tiny little insects, whatever, bugs, mites, living on my eyelashes that are eating dead skin. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry? A cleaning crew. It's nice that it's been worded as cleaning crew to try and make you feel less disgusting about it, but are you telling me I've got mites on my eyelashes that are eating the dead skin? Please, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Okay? We'll stick to the 3 facts, okay? We'll focus on the 3 facts. We'll remember the 3 facts. We don't need to remember the 4th, because that's disgusting. Disgusting. I know I said that this was just going to be an introduction video to mascara, but it has turned into quite a long video and I've gone quite in depth with things. So I don't yet know if I'm going to do another mascara video, because I feel like I've included pretty much everything in here. Unless there are questions that you may have, then I am all for answering. But I am aware that my history of red lipstick video was only about 12 minutes long, and I missed off quite a lot of information about how it's progressed through the years. So I will be doing an extra video on that, and I'm going to try and just squeeze everything into one video going forward for each product. So the history of foundation, history of setting powder, history of concealer, they will all be one video each, instead of doing many different videos of the same kind of subject. I feel like that way it will just be a lot more beneficial to viewers, instead of having to go through different videos to find the other thing. I got you, don't worry, honey. So yeah, that is my little deep dive into the history of mascara and the many different uses for it throughout the years. Let me know what you would like to see in next time's history of makeup video. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if this channel is your vibe. Love you. Bye.